Let's give it up for Earl. Thank you so much. Thank you and thank you all for being here. Just keep spreading, and I truly think you would love it. I really love being around so many people here in the park. So thank you all for being here. Next up, we have Michael Brooks, who was the executive director of Music Yukon for a while. So I also got to work with and Steve in that transition from the Steve Slade era to moving on once he retired. So please welcome Michael Brooks, who's going to share his story.
Yeah, so this is a story about Steve Slade, about Music Yukon, about Arts in the Park, a little bit about Jean-Briette that she doesn't even know, and about this t-shirt. So, when I was trying to start Music Yukon, we had our very first meeting in the little library, and Steve came to it, and it was in the late 90s, and in the late 90s, all us independent musicians were all keen on doing a CD. You may remember those. We used to sell them at concerts and stuff, still do occasionally. So we all wanted to do CDs, and we wanted an organization that would support us and support the recording industry. Steve came to the meeting and he said, well, I don't care what you guys think, unless Music Yukon is supporting live music and giving musicians venues to play, I don't want to be any part of it. And I want more places like Arts in the Park. So, Steve, we took you as your word, and I'm glad you stuck with us. But Arts in the Park and Music Yukon, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows and puppy dogs. No, it wasn't. In fact, there came a time when Steve, as Jean-Briette pointed out, had just about had enough of all his summers being taken up with doing Arts in the Park and wanted a little vacation. He also didn't think Music Yukon was treating him exactly fairly, and when Steve didn't think he was being treated fairly, you knew about it, as you all may know. And so the executive director resigned, and I was president at the time, and I was charged with the duty of taking over as executive director and negotiating with Steve Slade on Arts in the Park. Well, let me tell you what fun that was. So, Steve and I had a lot of long talks, and we basically started to settle things, and things came together. I told Bob Hamilton, I said, Bob, good news, Steve is going to continue on with Arts in the Park. He's not going to take his football and go home, and he's going to do it to the end of the year, and then we'll pick a new person to carry on. So Bob said, so how did you do it? I guess you gave Steve everything he wanted. I said, you know, pretty much, Bob, I did. I gave him 99% of what he wanted, but just to show that I wasn't a pushover, so that he would respect me, I held on to 1%. So Steve and I got to know each other better. We had a lot of long talks. I started to see the softer side of Steve that not all of us saw. We talked about his heart issues when he had to be medevaced out because he had a heart attack. And he said, Michael, you know, I've been living the good life too long, and maybe I need to make some changes. And we talked about that. I said, yeah, you're like Mickey Mantle. If you knew how long you were going to live, you would have taken better care of yourself, Steve. And he laughed, and we talked some more, and we got to know each other well. And so when I had finished my term as executive director, I was asked, I said, Steve, you're sure you're going now? You're not going to make a comeback like Elton John and ask to come back? He said, no, I'm going. And he said, do you want my opinion on who should be the next executive director? I said, well, of course I want your opinion, Steve, and even if I didn't, I'm sure you'd give it to me anyway. So he said, and Jean-Briette probably doesn't know this, but he said, there's only one person who could do it, and that's Jean-Briette. So she had the job before she knew she had the job. So a few months later, Steve comes up to me on the street and he said, hey, Michael, I left you a gift at Music Yukon. I said, a gift. You, Steve, who left me a gift. He said, yeah, you can come pick it up. And turns out this gift was the t-shirt that I'm wearing today. And for those of you who have great eyes, you can probably read it. For those of you that are like me that don't have great eyes, it says, the heart is a muscle the size of a fist. Keep loving, keep fighting. And I really do think that catches Steve. So, whenever I put this t-shirt on, I will remember, I will be fighting. Not exactly the way Steve would fight. I might settle for the 1% instead of the 101% that Steve would always go for. And most importantly, I'll try to keep loving in the way he would want all of us to. So, that's our Steve Slade story.
He's been a wonderful teacher, as you can see by some of the students that are up here already. I just see him lots of different ways, but I told him to get artists in the school program for a bunch of years, and he's been really wonderful, but he was the most dedicated musician we trained and worked with communities. He was tireless, but quality of what he did with kids, the depth, the respect that he had for all the kids he worked with was amazing. He produced a full album of children's songs that were amazing, Learn by Heart. He did the album with Theory, and I would tour with Steve, and they were from every community, and some kid would come up to him at the grocery store and he'd be walking by the river, and they'd say, I remember when you came in, I did the Riser song. Or if you want another song, or you taught me how to play the harmonica. That happens every time. So it's not just what happens here, but just how he affects everybody right across the community. And I'm going to turn it over to the larger public and talk a little bit about that.
I met Steve when I was 12. I'm from Faro, and we would travel around in communities and teach. I'd never touched a guitar before, and I was with him for an hour, and he showed me how to do this. We had a guitar and all that. Yeah? He showed me how to do that, and that was it. And he said, this is the most useful thing you're ever going to know as a guitar player. You get that down, and then it gets really easy after that. And that was it. So he left, and I went home at 12, and all the time, my mom was so annoyed. So then, fast forward 2 years, and I'm now in grade 9. And since you're from Faro, you get to go to these things where all the small towns meet up and they do camps. And I took the music on with Steve. And 2 years after that, I could do this. And Steve saw that, so he was like, oh, I know this kid's putting the work in. So he really took me under his wing, and that whole week spent way more hours with me than he was getting paid for. And he taught me some really beautiful songs and some really cool chords I didn't know about. And when that camp was over, I was getting ready to leave, and everyone was shaking hands and saying goodbye. And Steve shook my hand, and he said, you know, you could do this for a living, right? And I kind of like laughed at him, because I had several teachers tell me already that like music wasn't a feasible career. And anyone who knows Steve knows that he could get really serious. So when I kind of laughed at him, he got really serious. And he was like, I'm not joking. I was like, there's good money to be made, and you're good enough to do it. I was like, all right. So I went home and I kept practicing, and then fast forward one more year, and I'm now in grade 10, and I'm taking something called Planning 10, which is something to make every grade 10 kid, which is like planning your career and your future and all those things. And what they do is they put you in touch with someone who is in the line of work you want to be. So we're all picking, and I picked musician. And my teacher said, we can't do that because you have to pick someone with a proper career. I was livid. I was so mad. And me being 15 now, I hadn't learned to control my emotions and the things that I say to people. So we argued for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then I looked the teacher dead in the eyes and I said, well, Steve Slade told me I could, and he's a lot better at his job than you. I then got sent home, and I got called back with my dad. They were going to bring my mom, and my dad had already heard the story, so he was like, no, I'm going. So we go, and we sit down with this teacher. She was also the principal, and she recounts the whole story and blah, 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 for like 20 minutes. And at the end of it, my dad says, so what's your point? And she says, well, he can't speak to me like that. And my dad said, it sounds like you hit the nail on the head, and we stood up and walked out. And I'm a musician now. So he taught me a lot of songs at first camp, and I played a lot of shows with him after music school. And this was the first song he ever taught me. It's called Crazy Love by Van Morrison. And I'm a sobber, so if I stop singing, feel free to sing for me. I can
hear her heartbeat for 1,000 miles, and the heavens open up every time that she smiles. When I come to her, well, that's just where I belong. And yet I'll run to her like a river song. Give me love, 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 crazy love. Give me love, 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 crazy love. Take it, bud. Find sense of humor when I'm feeling low down. When I come to her, when the sun it goes down, take away my trouble, take away all my need, take away my heartache every night like a give me some sweet loving, brighten up my day. Yes, it makes me righteous, and it makes me whole. And it makes me mellow, way down in my
Elijah back, everyone. How does everyone agree? Both teaching, taking a real